Good morning. Hope everybody's having a good day. It is Tuesday, the 26th of December. So I hope everybody had a great Christmas. Um, hope this weekend was good. A lot of sickness with people, so I hope people's getting better, getting healed, getting over it, whether the flu, COVID, whatever it may be. I hope you're feeling better. I hope everybody's happy. Speaking of happy, Happy New Year. For those I won't get to see before then. Hope you have a great New Year. But anyway, the I think the season that we're in, um, Christmas. You know, uh, Christmas this season has always kind of been my favorite. So I I love Christmas season. I love the growing up, especially in with my granny. It was never about the gift kind of deal. It was just kind of about getting together and having a good time and enjoying our family together and enjoying some good food and um, so I've always enjoyed Christmas, and I think we obviously know that as we grow, especially in the church, you kind of begin to that is it's I see more people more critical about Christmas than anything else, and especially Christians. I mean, I think we we um, we celebrate we celebrate the Passover, the death and the resurrection, and I think it's just important for us to celebrate the birth. I mean, without the birth, none the other is possible. And for us, we know it's not about a, you know, guy with a beard, yada yada about, Santa Claus kind of deal. I mean, to me, it's not a, it's that's not argumentative. Um, so I think the in the church, I think we need to celebrate the birth, and my perspective changed on this a few years ago. Um, when we went to Israel, and they have a sort of a, I don't know, it's kind of a beautiful, I don't know, kind of synagogue, historic building that it's nothing in it but ornaments. People bring ornaments from all over the world. It's blues, it's greens, and but in this they pick a priest every year because it's sort of like a I don't know. It's almost like the a sacred room. But every year during this season, a flame gets lit. Now, this flame they proclaim is lit in this room by the Lord. No man is allowed to go in. Nobody's allowed to go in there. They keep it guarded and watched over. And what happens, they pick a priest every year. What happens when this flame gets lit? They pick that one priest and they load this flame up and they put it on an airplane and they fly this uh, fire or lantern or flame all over the world. And the journey starts within this. It usually happens. The guy that was telling us about this over there, or the lady that was leading this. But anyway, she said it happens within like a 20 day period of during the season of Christmas. So, which is kind of unique. The flame gets lit by the Lord, and then they take it and fly it all over the world, which is pretty cool. But this room is like full of nothing but ornaments. The colors are greens, reds, whites, just what we know as Christmas colors. And I kind of, my perspective changed on that, because I thought, I because religiously, you don't want to lose focus what we should be celebrating. And so I went to the story of what we know as the Christmas story in the scriptures, and these guys. Let me just read, and we'll get into this because I think it's important. But it said Jesus is. I'm going to read from Matthew 2, verse 1. It says Jesus was born in Bethlehem near Jerusalem during the reign of King Herod. After Jesus' birth, a group of spiritual priests from the east came to Jerusalem and inquired of the people, "Where is the child who is born King of the Jewish people? We observed his star rising in the sky, and we've come to bow before him in worship." Now, these guys, unknowingly who Jesus was, obviously knew the history, knew the past of the of an old covenant. They knew that the Emmanuel was coming, God with us. They knew that the Christ, the anointed one, was coming. And what is, I think, is so powerful that these guys was responding to a baby in a manger. I'm talking about an infant. Now, that doesn't change that he's still the Savior just because he was a baby. But I'm saying their mindset was they wanted to get to him. They loaded up all these gifts, and they were doing it in honor of him. And I think sometimes me and you, and I'm not saying that we have to do giftings, but I think Christmas needs to come back to honoring one another, honoring who Yeshua is to us. And we can do that in bearing gifts. And they brought, I studied this out. They brought them enough income that Mary and Joseph could live up to 4 years off what the gift, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. 4 years after this day. That's amazing gifts. And I thought about sometimes we lose our perspective in Christmas because we do get tied up in the gifting, but I think the gifting ought to be there in the honor of him. I think me and you can do what they did, the gifting, the celebration. But what stuck out to me more than all of that is it says they've come to bow before him in worship. And this word worship in this scripture is a Greek word, which is the Greek word for worship here is proskuneo, which means to kneel, to reverence, to adore. This literally is the standard definition. This is a common understanding of worship. This is a standard definition of worship. And here were men that's never encountered Jesus, never had ever known who he was. They knew him because of the feast. They knew about the feast. They've lived through the feast. They knew that the anointed one was coming. But they said, we want to know where he's at because we want to go and worship him. And it was, this Greek word is a standard meaning of worship. This is before they ever encountered Jesus, before they ever saw him. They already had a standard of worship in them. And I think for many of us that are believers, we've lost our our worship. What I'm saying is, I think many of us has went back to common worship. We've went back to common worship. We went back to the standard. Yeah, we go to church every week or whatever you do. And yeah, you listen to worship music and it has to be on a certain level. They've got to sing certain songs or it's got to be with 1,000 people or whatever it may be. But I think many of us have settled for just common worship, just the standard, just because we've done it for a while. Our enthusiasm of who he is, and me and you've encountered him. Me and you he lives in us. Greater is he that's in me and you than he that's in the world. And me and you I think many of us went back to the standard worship because we got to have it, every week we get, serenaded. I'll use that word in our churches. I think the level of worship, it's more, I think we have more people that more worship teams is what I'm saying, that is even our leaders in worship, our worship team leaders, we're just settled for common worship again. And here lately I've challenged our worship team to dig back in some old school music, like old hymnals, not the book, because I am the worst when it comes to them being critical about those things. But I'm talking about the songs, the why somebody produced what they were going through that produced this. It caused and ignites a fire in somebody. It ignited a fire in somebody. They experienced something in life and they wrote a song and it caught a blaze. And I think for me and you, we can I want to dig back some of those things up that can rekindle our worship. And I'm not talking about, that we come in and people just singing songs anymore. I think we've lost the whole meaning of that, man. We're doing a whole lot of pleasure and I don't know. I think we need to get back to the audience of one is what I want to challenge me and challenge us here and challenge you, is that not to settle for common worship anymore. It's just the standard for worship. We come in and we're just standard, and it's amazing how people will worship on a level. If you get 1,000 people together and you got a amazing, well-known worship group or your worship team that, that is playing your kind of music, I think that it's amazing how easy we can blend in and become worshipers. But if you don't have that, is what I'm saying. I mean, I think Sundays is a byproduct of our worship, and it's who we should be, and we shouldn't be just common worship. God's done too much good for me and you to just have the standard worship, just a common worship. God's been good to me and you, for me and you to go to church and be pleasured by great worship team, which I'm grateful. I think that I have the best worship team. But number one, because I think they're authentic. Number two, we're not trying to chase how many likes we get, or I always encourage that in these guys, because I've seen so many people come through and do different levels of worship or preaching. I mean, would we do it if there were none here? That's kind of the way I look at what I do. I've been challenged through the years, and I've brought it on to myself because I want to look through a different lens. And is your standard of worship, is it the same? Whether you're here or you're in your car going down the road, or wherever I just want us to, and I'm not talking about an outlaw. I'm not talking about shouting and screaming. I'm talking about the level that we have the intent. These guys said, look, they already knew about him enough. They've never met Jesus. They've never encountered Jesus, but they had a common level of adoration and adornment of him. They said, if we just want to get to him and we can bow down to him. And as we know, and I'll read the remainder of it just in a minute, but they lost the star. And they were trying to get to Jesus because they lost the star. They couldn't see it. And they were looking for a star. And for me and you that has started this journey on seeking after the Lord, there's seasons and there's times that we lose that star, is what I'm saying. We have to press through these moments in our life that it ain't perfect. It's difficult as a leader or as not. We have to, our common ground for worship needs to be above just a standard, just to be common. And they lost the star. But the reward was, and we'll read, they kept pressing. They kept pushing. I want to encourage some of you that you may have lost your worship. You may have lost your desire, that fire that was ignited in you. You've lost the gaze, the star, per se, like they did. I want to encourage you to, keep going. And I think Christmas is a good season for that. It's, people say paganism, and I told them that the one of the number one paganisms that we do are birthdays. You don't see nobody celebrating birthdays in the scripture. I mean, not that it's right or not if it's wrong or whatever it may be. I'm just saying, don't get caught up in that religion. It's about where your heart's at. It's about who you worship. If I worshiped gifts and trees and all that mess, I'd get it. But man, I'm going to tell you that we have to get back to celebrating the birth of why me and you get to live this life. That we are called the ecclesia. We are the church of the Messiah. We are the church of Jesus Christ. We are it. He's the reason why. And not to celebrate the birth of him, but we can celebrate the death, and we can celebrate the resurrection, but not celebrate the birth. And we can do it by celebrating, by, I think, igniting that fire again, bearing gifts in honor of him, if you would want to do that. I mean, I think that's amazing that me and you can do that. It absolutely, I don't know, it drives me crazy. I mean, and you have people that they'll walk around, they got to have a cross on their neck, cross on their shirt, and it was a form of death in back in Yeshua's days. I mean, it'd be like me walking around, or you walking around with a lethal injection chair around our necks. I mean, it was a form of death, a form of penalty of what you have done. But we celebrate that. We think, we talk about the cross and I'm like, but we don't want to celebrate the birth of what God, I mean, the whole reason. The lamb, he was a lamb. God, I don't know about you, but I'm grateful for that. And if we can celebrate that with one another, lose all the other stuff, we should have that kind of celebration in mind and in heart. If you don't, then you lose the whole purpose anyway, no matter what you do. I mean, we can come to church every week, but if we ain't got the heart after God and we're grateful and we're know that we've been redeemed and we are, becoming more like him. We've been made in his image. And I mean, it doesn't do you any good to go to church every week, is what I'm saying. So I'm saying that I want to ignite back in you why you do what you do, to celebrate him. It needs listen, your worship needs to be better than just common or a standard is what I mean. And these guys had a common worship without never encountering him. And for me and you that have encountered him, and it's just common. It's just common. It's common again. I just challenge you to change that and get that back. And let me read. So I won't keep ragging on, but it said then. Let me just get over here. Let me go to verse 9. Chapter 2, verse 9. It says, and so they left, and they're talking about what we know as wise man. Actually, it was a entourage. It wasn't just three. It was a entourage. It was a large group of people. But it says, as they left and went on their way to Bethlehem, suddenly the same star they had seen in the east reappeared again. And there you go. I want some of y'all to push through some things that maybe you've lost your desire, your heart, your worship, just whatever, your fire, whatever it may be. Listen, I'm going to encourage you, keep pushing, keep pressing on. Don't give up. And it said, it amazed, they watched as it went ahead of them and stopped directly over the place where the child was. And when they saw the star, they were so ecstatic that they shouted and celebrated with unrestrained joy. Wow. How awesome is that? So I looked up this, and it says, when they came into the house and saw the young child with Mary, his mother, they were overcome, falling to the ground at his feet. They worshiped him. They opened their treasure boxes full of gifts and presented him with gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So I looked up that Greek word right there to try to find that word where they was ecstatic with joy. They worshiped. And it said the Greek word here is so hard to translate because it comes in so many different forms of the word joy and worship and ecstatic that they couldn't pinpoint one word. They were just exceedingly joyful after they encountered, I'm talking about a baby, a child. I'm talking about that. I mean, again, him being a baby doesn't change. He was still the Savior. It was still the man of God. He was still, everything that we know him to be. But they encountered him as a baby, and they were so ecstatic. And I hope that it challenges me and you that has known Jesus in our lives, and we've went backwards. We're not ecstatic anymore. We're not joyful. We're not happy. We just got a common worship. We're just, we're just especially some of you worship leaders, that it becomes more about entertaining. Listen, I push our team to always, there's only one audience. It's an audience of one. And for many worship leaders, and listen, if your attitude and if you're different, if you're in front of a crowd than you are when you're worshiping him on your own grounds, there's something wrong with that. I challenge you to ignite that fire again, because we don't need that. We don't need performers. Honestly, I know a lot of great performers. No, what we need is somebody that's authentic, that's going to take us there, regardless the ups or the downs of life, because that's part of relationship, part of loving one another, part of bearing each other's burdens in the church. You up and down, but listen, let's do this thing. You got to do it together. And I want to challenge you to have that ecstatic joy again, that worship that they couldn't pinpoint in the writings, the Greek word for it, because it was so many words that came with the way they were feeling. And that's how I want to be. I challenge myself. I'm guilty. My prayer has been lately is that, to stir those things in me that I used to have. That's why I've asked our team to bring up some old school songs and stir in us, why we even started this journey. Why, what caused these men to pack up their mules and treasure chests. They didn't have little bags. They had treasure chests, it says, huge chest full of frankincense, myrrh, and gold. I mean, literally, it would be like somebody gifting you with $300,000-$400,000. They went and gave it to Mary and Joseph, gifting as a celebration. What caused them to, they've not ever encountered him. That's what gets me, is they've never encountered Jesus before. Other than they just heard that he was coming. Emmanuel, God's going to be with us. Something in them stirred enough that they had the love for Yahweh, for God, enough to pack up the wealth and gifts and to celebrate that. I want to challenge you, whatever got you on this journey, go and stir that up again. Whatever got you chasing after him, listen, we don't need any more performing. Listen, this is some serious times, and I hate to use this word, but this is war times. And I don't like using that word often because I don't want to misguide anybody. But listen, these are war times. And I think that for me and you as believers, if ever needed before, is not to serenade, not to performance driven. We don't need that. We need some people that loves the Lord regardless of your denomination. But the church needs to be that light on the hill and not put under a lamp or a bushel. We need to be light like never before. Not a light trying to get many as we can here or there. I'm talking about we need to be the light everywhere we go, because we are facing some dark things. And listen, what we see in the world is the fruit of the church just performing the last few years. We're just performing with one another. We're doing it all under a roof. Man, we have to be the light and the salt outside of this building. If ever before, we need to leave our common worship, our just regular standard settling. We need that being ecstatic, that joy, having that zeal about us again, having that fire about us again, and not knocking people over the head. And I'm talking about that it's attractive to those. Something about Jesus was attracted to men, that they were bearing gifts of huge amounts. And that's what we need to be to a dark world, is that they're not attracted to the stuff, but they're so much attracted to him that they're willing to give it all up. And we're in some war times, and I think that we've got to start. The church has to start spiritually fighting again, and oh no, it's kind of different. But I just want to challenge you as we go into this new year to. Some of you went back. Some of us, including me, just went back to common worship. to lose that, especially if you're a leader. You need to get with other leaders. You need people to pray for you, and because we don't need common, we need ecstatic, we need joy, we need worship that we can't put our hands on it. It's so good, and I'm not talking about falling out on the floor. I'm talking about ecstatic worship. Our lives just, it's a light, man. You can't deny that in our lives. And so I just want to challenge with you that. And I hope that the new year, as we go into it, is I love it that they were ecstatic. They shouted and they celebrated with unrestrained joy. That's good stuff. I hope that somehow we get like that, without any kind of music. But what caused you to, whatever caused you to be where you're at in your life, whatever caused you to chase after Him, get it back again. So, hey, I love you guys. Bless you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. Hope that and be looking. I'm going to try to, before the week's up, is do another live during the week. So whenever this finds you, I hope it finds you blessed, and be looking towards the end of the week. So discuss a few other things. But anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I love you guys so much. Appreciate you. I will see you guys soon.